first suicide attempt, I'm not really sure whether it was an attempt at suicide. It was more a cry for help, and it was when I was in school. I was quite happy as a child. It was later on that I developed depression. There was a lot of bullying due to my sexuality. I remember the first day of school, completely looking forward to it, and getting there and realising it was a completely different world to what I was used to in younger years. It just seemed like a tougher world, and I don't think I was quite prepared for that. I spent the first 3 or 4 years of comprehensive school, basically my evenings would entail me going home from school and sitting in my bedroom on my own every single night. And I developed a really serious depression because of that. I started self-harming, experimenting with prescription drugs and alcohol. I think despite all the horrible things that have happened in my life, I think that was probably the worst bit, because there was no hope. I'd very often dream of just like, as soon as I left school, I would run away to London or something and rebuild my life. Everything was so bleak. I just thought the whole world was that menacing and miserable and brutal. My parents were very nice when I grew up. In later years I had a bit of a clash with my father. We had a difficult relationship as the years went on. He basically thought I was a bum that just didn't work and didn't do anything with my life. As a young child, he would say very negative things about homosexual people. He never voiced opinions like that as I was older, so I'm not sure whether he just changed his views or just didn't express them. I'm not sure. I mean, during that period in school, I found a really great coping method was drinking to the excess. And after an overdose that I took, I was prescribed antidepressants, so I quickly realised that mixing prescription drugs and alcohol was a really good way to get out of my head and not have to deal with these things. All during school, when I wasn't getting on really well with my father, I would always scream to him that as soon as I was 16 and legally old enough, I would move out. So when I was 16, I did move out and I moved to Newport. Had a really good time for the first time in so many years. I mean, it was fueled a lot by drugs and partying quite a lot. But I think that the problem with me and drugs is that they lead generally to a psychosis. It's very difficult for me to spot that come into. I have a lot of insight into my condition up until a certain point where I lose all insight and there's no kind of helping me then. I have to hit rock bottom and go completely crazy before I'll get any better. And that's generally what happened. I got crazier and crazier, and eventually I was hospitalised. And what followed was many years of trying to cope with voices in my head, visual hallucinations, really disordered thinking. Psychosis is, I mean, in a nutshell, you can explain it as somebody with a psychosis experiences reality very differently to everyone else. I guess everyone sees the world in their own unique way. Psychosis is where you see it in a very unhealthy way, I think. It's very much tied in with paranoia, hallucinations. You very often hear voices in your head which are very critical and tormenting. it's very easy to slip into a place where everything is just, I can't even find a word for it, everything is just gaga, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing that anyone can say to you to change that, unless you find the insight for yourself. You're never gonna work your way out of it. And when I was in hospitals and things, you see so many people, and you know that is their entire life, that they're just going to go through life feeling persecuted and not understanding what's going on in their own lives. I think insight came for me when things reached such a bad point that I was hospitalised in a psychiatric unit for 5 years. Obviously during that time I wasn't drinking or taking drugs, so there was a period of sobriety, and I think I just sat down and thought, how the hell could I have ended up here? You know, this isn't normal, this didn't fit in with any of the delusional ideas I had. This was reality and it wasn't great, and I sat down and I thought very hard about my life and how it had ended up this way. And yeah, it took many years to finally just rediscover reality. And it was very depressing, actually, because when you're delusional, you can think of so many wonderful things, and you think the world could, I mean, it can be awful too. There's the flip side to it. But you can sometimes think of these wonderful realities, and then to find out that they're not true is very disappointing. You know, suddenly, I mean, it's very common with people with schizophrenia to have a messiah complex, where you think that you have some sort of special mission in life. To find out that you're just a normal, boring human can be really disappointing. I think drugs, in particular, fed into my psychosis, and it was the psychosis itself that made me want to end my life. You know, a constant barrage of voices in my head, not understanding the world, thinking that it was a very evil place. For me, the voices in my head I always believed were the thoughts of other people around me. So if you've got all these angry, spiteful voices in your head that you think are your family and friends, I mean, how can you relax in your life like that when you think that everyone around you is evil and insane? You know, my family tried to support me in any way they could, with access to mental health services and psychiatry and things. I think when the schizophrenia developed, they were kind of lost. They didn't know, they didn't understand what was happening to me. They didn't understand me, I don't think. But, you know, they gave me access to as many services as they could. At one point, they even got a priest around, which was very unhelpful, because he told me that I was possessed by spirits and things. I ended up sectioned a couple of days later, so yeah. The services, I think, are really underfunded, because it was, back in those days, it was a case of I'd be so unwell I'd go into hospital, they'd wait until the initial distress passed and then pack me away and pack my bags and let me get on my way. There just isnisn't the resources, I don't think, to really intensely treat someone, so they wrap a bandage around you and send you on your way. Once I was sent to the psychiatric hospital for 5 years, I think they realised that something had to be done, and there was more intense therapy and things. I don't think the NHS has the sort of money to treat everyone like that, and so you see a lot of people who are just in and out of hospitals all the time. When I left hospital in 2012, on top of everything else that had happened, I started developing problems with my bowel, particularly strong diarrhea, blood, mucus, vomiting, immense pain. I'd keep going to my GP, and he said that he'd referred me to a specialist. He said just to wait for that appointment, but time went on and on. I was getting sicker and sicker. In the end, my mother came down and she said, "You look absolutely awful. I need to take you to accident emergency." And I said, well, the doctor has said, I'd just be wasting my time plus everyone else's time if I went to A&E because there's nothing they could do for me. She said, no, you look like shit, so you go into hospital. So we went to A&E. I was basically just collapsed on a bed in a little room. They took me to a ward. I think it was either 2 or 3 days later, the doctor came on the ward and she said, you need to have your entire colon removed in the morning, otherwise you're going to die. After I was discharged from the hospital, as I said, it took many months to recover, but I did decide that life was very short and I needed to do the things that I'd always wanted to do, because you never know how long you've got left. So I started very, very soon working on music, what would later become the album The Pornographer. It was a concept album about the voyeurism I felt in the psychiatric unit. Every day I would go out into the car park in the hospital and go on my phone, and I'd see on Facebook my friends having a really good time. And it was kind of voyeuristic, because I thought all I can do is watch through the screen. I can't really partake in what's going on. All I can do is watch. So I did feel metaphorically like a pornographer. But yeah, I guess there's a trade-off between being very isolated during that time and also getting myself well. The music itself was just, the music of that album was very angry and quite aggressive, which basically mirrored the frustration and the anger I felt at my situation. The project itself was quite work intensive. I was very involved in it and very focused. I found the whole thing cathartic and therapeutic. And I think what kind of spurred the momentum on as I released songs and getting quite a lot of positive feedback from it. It was the first time I actually thought, maybe my music isn't that bad. Maybe people are enjoying it. Yeah, it was definitely very intense and very therapeutic for me. I think that anyone with mental health problems should explore the arts. I think and not just the arts, anything that you're passionate about, something you can really focus on and really dive deep into and get really excited about. And the process of creating something is really exciting anyway, I think, especially when you show that to other people and they appreciate it almost as much as you do. Just really exciting and really rewarding. And yes, I've had some negative feedback about my work and things, but the positive outweighs that, and the actual achievement aspect of it, you feel really fulfilled. At the moment, I'm writing a novel. It's a horror thriller. I'm also going to be working on some gay erotica. I think that's very in keeping with my kind of personality and the things I like to express about myself. The novel, I guess I've struggled at certain times to motivate myself to write that. Motivation is a very difficult thing to grasp with schizophrenia. Well, any mental health problem, I think. Sometimes you just need to focus on the end goal and just keep prodding yourself along. And I know that the payoff in the end will be really good. The satisfaction of achieving that again. And I think that's really important for people with schizophrenia, that they feel like they never achieve anything. And so little things like that can actually boost your self-esteem and make you feel really good about life again. I think for the future, my ideal lifestyle would be a business that's based online where I can work from home, because I find going out can be sometimes stressful for me. But I also like traveling, so having a laptop that I can work from any location would be really good. I'm particularly interested in writing books at the moment and the music. I think there's a lot of possibilities with the internet. It's opened the entire planet to somebody's living room. I mean, you can sit at home and reach several billion people all in one go, potentially. And I'm not really greedy. I'm not thinking about a millionaire's lifestyle. I just think that enough to meet my daily costs and to do the things that I really enjoy. I mean, that would be more than I could ever wish for. So I think that's really, really important for me to focus on things like that rather than dwell on horrible things that have happened and how crap life can be. You know, I don't really want to waste my life worrying about things like that. I think that I've developed quite a lot of empathy, a lot of understanding about how other people feel, and I always seek to make people feel good about themselves and make the mood lift. You're not always successful with things like that, but it's always a goal worth pursuing to make other people happy, because in that way you make yourself happy. Not from a totally selfish point of view, but it's good to be good to others, I think. I think I would just describe myself as an artist. I think that's all encompassing. The fact that I like to look at things in unique ways. I like to make metaphors for things within my own life and things within other people's lives. I'm in a really good place now, I think. Sometimes it's easy to forget about how good things are compared to how they were before. But these days, you know, I've worked really hard to get my home how I want it. I've got a little cat that I love so much. 2 music projects down and hopefully more to go. Writing books. A lot of really, really good friends, which I appreciate more than anything, I think, because I know what it's like not to have them. So the people in my life make life worth living, I think. Life's good, and I honestly think that it's just going to get better and better. And that is such a really good thing to have come out of all this.